Although George Lucas will continue to say that Star Wars is for kids, there's certainly been some pretty brutal and mature moments in the saga that you would not want to show your children. Quite a few of these moments actually revolve around character deaths, though both Disney and Lucasfilm have decided to censor many of them over the franchise's 45-year lifespan. Up until 2005, all Star Wars films had been rated PG, making the saga mostly family-friendly on a surface level, with the very worst of the Star Wars being scenes of occasional loss of limbs or drawing of blood. But with the release of Revenge of the Sith, well, that all changed. The third entry into Lucas's prequel trilogy was far darker than previous films, with it receiving a PG-13 rating, and along with that, we've seen a mounting number of savage deaths. So let's take a look at some of the more gruesome. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 Star Wars characters you didn't realise probably died horrible deaths. Number 10. Owen and Beru. Although being generally the most inoffensive of the Star Wars films, A New Hope still definitely has its fair share of censored graphic moments, despite its PG rating. After spending time with the old Jedi wizard known as Obi-Wan Kenobi and learning about his father's past during the Clone Wars, Luke Skywalker quickly rushes home but finds out that Imperial stormtroopers had managed to track the wanted droids back to his homestead. Unfortunately for Luke, by the time he reaches his destination, all he's left with is the burnt-out shell of his home and the singed corpses of his aunt and uncle. Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen met a cruel and undeserving demise, though it's not totally clear who murdered these moisture farmers. For a while, some fans theorized it was Boba Fett who committed this heinous act, disintegrating the two on orders of the Empire, which could also explain why Darth Vader made such a point to ban Fett from using disintegration during The Empire Strikes Back. Still, it's more probable that Imperial stormtroopers killed Owen and Beru, likely using incinerator troopers to cook the pair alive in their home as they unsuccessfully pleaded for mercy. Woof. Number 9. Bail Organa. For as important of a character as he is, the death of Bail Organa on Alderaan is quickly forgotten during the events of A New Hope. Wanting to showcase the power of the newly constructed Death Star and force information out of Princess Leia, Grand Moff Tarkin chose to destroy the entire planet of Alderaan, which had a population of 2 billion. Included in that population were Leia's parents, much to the princess's dismay. And whilst the film contains Alderaan's destruction, George Lucas chose not to show the fate of the planet from an inhabitant perspective, probably as to not throw in any additional characters into the story who would serve virtually no purpose at all. Still, Bail Organa, being one of the founding members of the Rebel Alliance, met his end when he looked into the sky and saw an ominous dark sphere pointing down at him, with an intense barrage of green lasers charging up, signalling the death of himself, his wife, and his planet. In a sense, Organa was lucky that his death was relatively painless and instantaneous, being immediately vaporized. Even so, it's fair to say that the terror he, his wife, and 2 billion other innocents experienced makes Organa's and Alderaan's death pretty brutal indeed. Number 8. Chewbacca. Before Disney's sequel trilogy, the mighty Wookiee Chewbacca had a very different fate. In Vector Prime, the first novel in the new Jedi Order series, Chewbacca, Han Solo, and his son Anakin Solo were sent to a planet to pick up a shipment on the order of Lando Calrissian. The crew soon learned that a nearby moon would smash into the planet, destroying it in the process. Whilst Chewie and Han loaded as many people onto the Millennium Falcon as possible during its evacuation, Anakin ran off into the city before being blown away by the increasingly powerful winds. Being the hero that he is, Chewbacca jumped off the Falcon and rushed to save Han's son, which luckily he did. However, once Chewie brought Anakin back to the ship, the Wookiee was swept away by a sudden gust of wind. Unable to reach him in time, Anakin piloted the ship off planet, and Han watched on in horror as his best friend was crushed to death by the falling moon. All the while, Chewbacca let out one last defiant roar. As harrowing and as tragic as this death is, it's fair to say that Chewie's death in the Star Wars Legends continuity is both brutal and hard-hitting. Number 7. The SNOWTROOPER vs. WAMPA. Now, being an Imperial Stormtrooper is certainly one of the worst jobs that you could have in the galaxy. Apart from the apparent lack of sufficient target training, the most terrible aspect of being a Stormtrooper is the worlds that you're sent to and what could lurk there. In a deleted scene from The Empire Strikes Back, during the rebels' escape from Hoth, C-3PO runs past a door with a warning sign on it. Wanting to trick pursuing snowtroopers, the cheeky protocol droid rips the sign off, hoping the troopers will try to enter the room. Shortly before 3PO runs away, the SNOWTROOPERS stop at the door, with the most inquisitive of the squad opening it. Suddenly, a WAMPA's arm grabs the trooper and pulls him into the room, with his fellow Imperial soldiers rushing to close the door as soon as possible, making no attempt to save their comrade. Although this SNOWTROOPER's death was not shown, it's pretty obvious what happened. Given the opening of the film saw Jedi in training Luke Skywalker narrowly avoid becoming a WAMPA's lunch, clearly this SNOWTROOPER wasn't as lucky as Skywalker and was likely devoured moments after the door was slammed shut. Number 6. Jedi Gatekeeper JUROKK. Revenge of the Sith is widely regarded to be the most mature Star Wars film in the saga, with plenty of parents in 2005 choosing not to bring their kids with them to the cinema due to how relatively graphic the third prequel was. Even so, a large portion of scenes were excluded from the final film, since George Lucas deemed them to be too violent to be included. And one of these scenes was the opening of Operation Nightfall, where the 501st Clone Legion, led by Darth Vader, stormed the Jedi Temple on Coruscant and killed off all the Jedi present. In the scene, JUROKK, the Jedi Gatekeeper, rushes over to the newly appointed Sith Lord, asking where Mace Windu and the other masters were. Vader ignores JUROKK and asks where Shaak Ti is. Once the Gatekeeper tells Vader where Master Ti is, the fallen Jedi ignites his lightsaber through JUROKK's chin, killing him instantly. From there, Vader and his clone troopers move through the temple, massacring every Jedi they found. Whilst this scene was not present in the final cut of the film, this gruesome death is still included in the novelization of Revenge of the Sith by Matthew Stover. Number 5. Clone Trooper at the Citadel. Originally airing on Cartoon Network from 2008, Star Wars The Clone Wars included some of the most horrific moments in the larger franchise. One of the most entertaining arcs the show has to offer is the Citadel 3-parter in the 3rd season, where Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ashoka, and a squad of clone troopers stormed the Separatist Citadel on Lola Sayu. The mission at hand is to rescue Republic prisoners, including a pair of Jedi Masters, both of whom possess the coordinates of a strategically important hyperspace lane. With the crew managing to get down to the planet undetected, the team stealthily make their way towards the Citadel. When the death of a clone signaled the team's presence, Separatist forces powered on the security doors, by which point the team had rescued the Jedi Masters and other Republic personnel from their cells. Now, these doors posed a major threat to the team, considering that if they got caught in them whilst they were closing, you would be critically injured. Unfortunately for one trooper, he gets stuck in between the doors and the doors shut, where an audible slice can be heard, along with the clone letting out a pained screech as everything below his torso is, separated from his body. Number 4. Darth Tenebrous. Even though Darth Tenebrous has not appeared in any live-action prequel as of yet, his death is truly horrifying and shows how disturbing the dark side of the Force can be. Appearing in the 2012 novel Plagueis, Darth Tenebrous was the Sith Master of Darth Plagueis, the Sith Lord who instructed Palpatine, and during a visit to Bal Demnik, Plagueis seized the opportunity to kill his master by collapsing the ceiling onto him after Tenebrous focused on holding a lethal explosion back from engulfing the pair. And whilst Plagueis was studying his master's dying midichlorians, Tenebrous was able to ensure his survival by altering his midichlorians to maxichlorians, which would then transfer into his apprentice's body. As his consciousness entered Plagueis' body, Tenebrous got a glimpse of his apprentice's fate, that being his death at the hands of his own apprentice, Darth Sidious. Wanting to preserve his life with the ultimate aim of inhibiting the Chosen One, Tenebrous left Plagueis' body, knowing that his apprentice was doomed. However, once Tenebrous had reached his own corpse, he was shocked to find that he had been mummified. Now damned to relive his death, Tenebrous was fully conscious as his remains rotted away. Number 3. The Separatist Council. Since A New Hope began with there being no trace left of the Separatist movement in the galaxy, it was fair to assume that the leaders of the Confederacy of Independent Systems would meet their maker before the beginning of the original trilogy. In what is one of the best scenes in Revenge of the Sith, Palpatine victoriously announces the creation of the Empire, promising security and stability to the galaxy, whilst his new apprentice on Mustafar, Darth Vader, executes the Separatists who Palpatine previously promised security and stability to. Although we see plenty of their deaths on screen, there were several that didn't make it into the film for being far too traumatizing. Once again, the Revenge of the Sith novelization by Matthew Stover shows how much darker that scene could have been. After slicing Poggle the Lesser into pieces, Vader turns to the leader of the Commerce Guild, Shumai. Mai cries out for her life, but the Sith Lord impaled the Separatist through the skull before slashing her head off. Vader then jumps towards Wat Tambor, leader of the Techno Union, and cuts through his head and arms. Both these characters could be seen in the background of this scene, yet their deaths were not explicitly shown, shown, since they were, well, as you might have guessed, particularly brutal. Number 2. Stormtroopers on Endor. Now, Return of the Jedi is widely regarded to be the weakest film in the original trilogy due to its strangely carefree and somewhat childish tone, in part due to the inclusion of the Ewoks. Now, on the surface, the Ewoks seemed to be a playful group of teddy bears whose inclusion was just to appease the young children in the audience. However, upon closer inspection, their terrifying capabilities definitely come to light. When the rebels land on the forest moon of Endor, they are quickly ambushed by Ewoks. The team is then taken back to the Ewoks village in the trees, and it's made clear that Luke, Han, and Chewbacca are to be the main course of the feast prepared in C-3PO's honor. It's only because Luke tricks the creatures into thinking 3PO is angry with their offerings by levitating the droid above them with the Force that our team are able to escape. Since stormtroopers stationed on the forest moon didn't have a golden droid nor a Jedi, their fate seemed pretty obvious. During the triumphant ending of the film, the rebels and Ewoks are celebrating the destruction of the second Death Star, with the creatures using Imperial helmets as drums. Considering that the bodies of these stormtroopers are not found, it's evidently clear that these Imperials were barbecued and then eaten alive by the Ewoks. And number 1, clones on Geonosis. If there was one planet that every clone trooper would want to avoid during the Clone Wars, it would definitely be Geonosis. With the Clone Wars beginning on the planet in Attack of the Clones and then going under a second invasion several months later, many clone troopers were sent to ultimately die on that sand planet, and their deaths were, well, pretty horrifying. Now, Geonosians were technologically advanced and had invented plenty of deadly weaponry in their time. Amongst their inventions were sonic blasters. These blasters fired off rings of energy and inflicted excruciating pain on whoever was unlucky enough to be at the other end of them. If you were hit by a sonic blaster, your organs would begin to rupture, with your body essentially being cooked from the inside. And if that wasn't bad enough, it was incredibly common during both invasions for clones to be carried off by Geonosians who would then later eat them alive. Either way, death at the hands of a Geonosian would certainly want to be avoided by clones, though many would later meet their grisly fate in one of these two manners. So when a clone trooper was whizzed away by two Geonosians in the Clone Wars second season, or if a trooper got hit by a sonic blaster, their demise would be every bit as frightening as it was agonizing. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 Star Wars characters you didn't realize probably died horrible deaths. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Twitter at RetroJ, but the O is a 0, or you can swing by Instagram where it's the same handle, RetroJ, but the O is a 0. Hope to see you over there, my friend. Before I go, I just want to say one thing. Hope you're treating yourself well with love and respect, because you deserve all the best things in life, alright? And do not let anything or anyone else tell you otherwise. You are a massive ledge, and I want you to go out there and smash it today. I believe in you. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.